Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Balia. I am coming from CloudSwyft. I would like to officially welcome you to our webinar series about future-ready technology skills in Malaysia and ASEAN region. For our today's special guest is our CloudSwift's founder and CEO, Dann Angelo De Guzman. We will be starting exactly at 11 a.m. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy our webinar.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Dann Angelo De Guzman. I'm the founder and CEO of CloudSwift Global Systems. We're based in the Philippines, and we're very excited about being part of this event with the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, My Digital Workforce Week. And we would like to thank everybody that is joining us this morning, and we're hoping that everyone is actually safe and well during these challenging times, and hoping and wishing everyone a very fantastic day today. So today we're going to talk about future-ready technology skills in Malaysia and the rest of ASEAN. So taking a look at the fourth industrial revolution to start with, since we're going to be talking about and discussing about future-ready digital skills and future-ready technology skills, it is very important for us to look back how we started the fourth industrial revolution, or also known as Industry 4.0, and how it will affect the essence of human nature and the essence of individual experience. And as you can see here from the World Economic Forum, according to the founder and chairman of World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0, not just talking about regional or just particularly in Malaysia as a country, but even globally or worldwide, will affect the very essence of our human experience. And with that said, looking back on how it was started and how did we land from having the first industrial revolution with a course of three more industrial revolution life cycles, to answer that question of that statement and that claim that it redefines and reinvents the human experience than ever before, is looking at the first industrial revolution, just looking back so that everyone would have a great idea and some knowledge and some awareness of a little bit of a history here. So as you can see, during the first industrial revolution, this started during the major industrialization era in Great Britain or in London, which happened in the late 1700s and early 1800s, where water and steam power were used to mechanize the entire production. So steam and water power, all of those equipments and machineries being done 1700s and 1800s being engineered and being used by the masses. And then during the second industrial revolution, I think everybody knows about the commoditization of electricity, when the American Industrial Revolution happened in 1820, in between 1820 and 1870s, and it specifically used electric power to create that mass production. So where it is today, that we know, like we consume and commoditize electricity as we use in our everyday lives. And as you can see here, for the third industrial revolution, which is, by the way, still happening and ongoing nowadays, is the era that is actually being used by the electronics and in the information technology industry, or IT industry, in order for us to automate and digitalize production. So this era started in 1980s and it's still ongoing. So to give you a perfect example of that would be like manufacturing plants, factories, semiconductor industry, they use robotics and automation flows in terms of the use of combining electronics design mechanisms, as well as precision engineering to make sure that capital machines and different manufacturing plants are able to perform tasks in terms of producing and assembling equipments that are being built and that are being shipped from manufacturing plants to the consumers. And the way to actually automate and do performance and system integration and testing with that kind of flow of equipments physically from the manufacturing plants all the way up to the uh, end equipment manufacturers and the consumers. So interestingly enough, with the fourth industrial revolution, or the Industry 4.0, um, which is everyone is calling the modern digital era. This represents the combination of cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, the combination and integrations of Internet of Systems, which builds in and digitizes the revolution of basically coming from the third industrial revolution, or Industry 3.0. So moving from Industry 3.0 to now shifting into Industry 4.0 is the evolution that started from the electronics and the applications of electronics and applications of information technology processes and systems to now a more advanced way of applying technology in our everyday lives. So it converges the physical, virtual, as well as the biological spheres enabled by the digital technology. And its fundamentals are artificial intelligence, cloud computing, automations and DevOps, data science, analytics, predictive analytics, as well as big data. And that's where the future-ready technology skills will come into play in terms of the fourth industrial revolution. And that's why whenever you're probably attending a lot of seminars nowadays about IT or about the future-ready skills, everyone is talking about Industry 4.0. So now you know, through this historical walkthrough that we just did today, you know how we ended up with the 4.0, right? Because some people might ask it, why is it not 2.0? Why is it not 3.0? So this is the answer to that question. We are in Industry 4.0 because of the evolution since the 1700s to now the industrial 4.0, to tackle future-ready technology skills such as AI, data science, cloud computing, DevOps, and such. And talking about those industrial revolution 4.0 or Industry 4.0 era, we are making more progress now per year than in the last 25 years. Clearly and evidently, as you can see in this specific slide, it's like, I think everyone is a fan. Majority of probably like tech savvy people are a fan of Star Wars, and it's one of the most popular movies of all time. And if we take a look at how innovation and how Industry 4.0 was able to inhibit and empower everyone in the industry to make even more progress, to make jobs easier, to make jobs faster, accelerated, to make jobs automated, to make jobs reinvented, because we are making more progress now per year than ever before within the last 25 years. And that's how incredible and astonishing these changes are. And looking at Malaysia as a whole in focus of Industry 4.0 and the future-ready technology skills. So according to some interesting data right here that you can see here, 9 out of 10 of Malaysian-based workforce or employees, or almost 89% of that, said that they will need to acquire these new technical skill sets if they want to work in digital industry. So that's a big word and that's a big claim that everyone is actually in the workforce industry of Malaysia thinks that they need to acquire technical skill sets and future-ready digital skill sets in order for them to work in a digital enabled industry. So these are like companies and organizations that are undergoing digital transformations. So regardless if these are IT companies or software companies or tech companies, whether they are the Googles of Malaysia or or the grabs of Malaysia, or the tech startups or the tech innovative companies out there. Gone are the days that only technology-based companies are the ones that would need to aim for learning different technology skill sets and future-ready digital skill sets. Now, manufacturing industries, healthcare industries, professional services industries, finance industries, so all of these non-technology industries becoming tech industries because of the Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. So that's why you're seeing that data right here. 9 in 10 of Malaysian-based workforce said they need to acquire these new technical skill sets. Nearly 70% of Malaysians said employers are investing in new technology in the fields of AI, RPA or robotics process automation, machine learning, and such. So I think it's a pretty straightforward claim, given that all of these data are related in nature. Since there's a demand of Malaysian-based workforce to acquire technology skills, then obviously closer to that number as well, Malaysians saying employees are investing in new technologies because they realize that they need to be able to learn these new technologies because these employees in Malaysia or companies in Malaysia start to embrace digital transformations, such as financial institutions, banks, and different other companies. Financial institutions such as HSBCs and Citibanks of the world, like predominantly embrace these kinds of financial technology industries, as well as other sectors such as healthcare, professional services, and education sector. So over 80% of Malaysians agree that these future-ready technology skill sets will have positive impacts on their jobs. And that's how it's going to be relating later on with the future slides that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to emphasize with you, is that having that kind of future will set to the demanded employability or demanded future-ready jobs in Malaysia as a whole, and in ASEAN on a regional perspective, would be able to realize on why it's over 80%. And then 76% of Malaysians are taking matters actually into their own hands. So meaning to say 76% of Malaysians are actually independently investing into upskilling and reskilling themselves into these future-ready technology skill sets. So again, like I said, whenever we talk about future-ready technology skill sets in Industry 4.0, these are skill sets that are required in the Industry 4.0 context when it comes to upskilling. So whether it's AI, data science, data analysis, analytics, DevOps, cloud, software development, and such. Malaysia in focus, Industry 4.0 now, to take a look at the journey of what Malaysia has done so far in the education sector, most primarily in the higher education sector. So I guess for all the Malaysians out there, or people that are living in Malaysia and familiar with the Malaysian education sector within this particular webinar, you would probably agree, or it will be familiar with you looking at these different Malaysian higher education journeys, which is actually divided into 4. And the sources is actually gotten from the Malaysian higher education paper from the Ministry of Higher Education. So centers on teacher as the source of knowledge by employing chalk and talk teaching methods. So it's like, that's 1.0, right? So we talked about the industrial revolutions 1 to 4, and now relating that into the source of talent, which is basically what? The education sector. So interestingly enough, with 1.0, it's like straightforward, chalk, talking, or discussions by teachers are talking about the topics and the lessons and using the blackboard and the chalk, and then interactions with the students face to face. Now 2.0 establishes utilization of basic technology practices or tools in the classrooms, features the students to receive information knowledge as well. So this 2.0 now started to adapt into these tools and online learning rhythms, and then encourages dynamic teaching, so dynamism and also interactivity within the tools that can be applied. Approaches by recording students' explorations and real world problems, that's real world scenarios that they can experience, and they can apply the skills and the knowledge that they're acquiring. And then the 4.0 obviously promotes students' diversification of roles as curator or curators of knowledge. So this is where the content producers come into play, connection makers, the web as the open global curriculum. So this is where the massive open online course industry, or the MOOC era or MOOC industry, started into play. And the education as the resource guide, wherein universities nowadays in Malaysia has started to create their own technology based, or if not technology based, their own online learning modules as well, being as in a format of massive open online courses in such platforms such as Open Learning, for example, in Malaysia, and of course other platforms out there that we're in. Malaysian top tier universities are partnering in order for them to share their content as educators, and then for the students and the learners of Malaysia to consume that content. And interestingly enough, even mobile service providers nowadays in Malaysia had started to embrace the diversification of offering to the Malaysian citizens, wherein even though these service providers are focusing on telco and mobile service providers, they started to embrace promoting and exposing educational products and options to all the Malaysian citizens as well. So stepping into the future, so now we know that there's a huge gap in the technology skills industry in the country, and then Malaysia has been very active in addressing that, both the public and the private sector. So Malaysia aims to create the right future technology skills roadmap and ecosystem for Industry 4.0, and to be adopted and align these existing lines and stepping into the future into executing those steps. So as you can see, talent and supply and skill levels are very important to consider. Of course, obviously, collaborative platforms and technology learning platform solutions are being vetted by, or being integrated or collaborated by, both the private sector and the public sector in Malaysia as a country. So from top to bottom, like in-country plans, and then giving the opportunities to all the private sectors to be part of that contribution and collaboration as well. So that becomes holistically that future-ready technology skills ecosystem that can be built in Malaysia as a whole. And then obviously, since we're talking about different tools and technology platform solutions here, then digital infrastructure is very critical. And then funding support, as you can see, the Malaysian government has been doing a lot of support as well for its citizens, as we've imagined and as we've noticed, with our partnership with platforms such as Coursera, and private sector partnerships with the Malaysian Development Economic Corporation, or MDEC, and among others. And then obviously data availability and sharing, as well as innovation capacity. So the capacity of the country to embrace innovation and these innovative products that can be rolled out into both the corporate and the education sector, hand in hand with the government sector. So given its importance and its critical essence to develop, upgrade, retain, upskill, reskill the required future-ready technology digital skills talent, the Industry 4.0 policy is aligned with those future-ready technology skills that are in place. So this is very interesting. Let me show you Malaysia and its future when it comes to the job outlook and trends in 2020. So this report, this incredible report, is actually from our source, from LinkedIn, from LinkedIn's Malaysia's job report. The recent job trend data for 2020 and beyond for Malaysia shows the future of what types of jobs and future-ready skills required in that job, and the future-ready skills or future-ready jobs that are being in demand right now by the modern employers of today. So this isn't just true, by the way, in Malaysia, but also these employers and these companies are internationally located companies and across the global markets and across the world, being vetted as like Malaysian employees or Malaysian workforce, not just necessarily looking at the opportunity of working for local Malaysian-based companies, but also international global industry or tech companies out there. So primarily big data still dominates Malaysia's emerging jobs, which is very, very interesting. So data scientist is again the top emerging job as number one, while data engineers in top 5. Later on, you'll see a more deal dream. And I I want to actually tackle each of those roles or each of those job position earlier that I've just mentioned to now map it up here with like industrial 4.0, as you mentioned. The fundamentals of AI, the fundamentals of it are AI data analysis, and as you can see, like all of these emerging jobs in Malaysia are majority of that, and that's has how amazing it is to see that opportunity for the Malaysian economy and ASEAN as a whole. So e-commerce is fueling demand for hard and soft skilled talent. So we all know that there's a lot of other internet companies and tech companies that are being born out of Malaysia, if not ASEAN as a whole, but also primarily Malaysia. It has grown to some 21% since 2015, and to be worth nearly $11 billion, according to the Economy's Southeast Asia 2019 report by Google, Temasek, and Bain & Companies. As you can see here, with this particular opportunity, it clearly just means that there's a lot of technology startup companies and there's a lot of tech companies being built out of Malaysia. There's a lot of innovations coming out of Malaysia that are being built out, and that's why obviously these tech companies and these e-commerce companies and internet companies being out of Malaysia or setting up in Malaysia would need to hire these future-ready job positions and future-ready skilled job positions. And clearly 8 out of 10 of Malaysia's top 10 jobs highly require future-ready technology skills. So imagine that. Industry 4.0 tackles its fundamentals as AI, data analysis, cloud, software development, automations, and robotics and DevOps. And then looking at the trend now, 2020 and beyond, in Malaysia alone as a whole, 8 out of 10 of those top emerging jobs are future-ready technology jobs. That's very interesting, and it's incredible in such a way that the opportunity is being ripe and it being progressive and aggressive as we move along. So these are data scientists, customer success specialists, full stack engineers, data engineers, cybersecurity specialists, digital marketing specialists, DevOps engineers, as well as community managers. So since, in relation to all of these e-commerce companies and internet companies being born out of Malaysia, of course, obviously they would need to hire these kinds of people that will require these jobs and responsibilities and skill sets, and hence the top 10, as you can see here. So number one, data scientists. So it's very important for data scientists to have data and artificial intelligence skill sets that are required for this job. So number one being data scientists, and I think it's also the same. It's the same mantra that is being resonated by the government agencies in Malaysia in terms of prioritization, in terms of upskilling and reskilling, as they see the opportunity as a trend in Malaysia's top 10 job demands in 2020 and beyond. And this is what to look forward to for the workforce and professionals and students out there in the audience. And this shall be treated as an amazing opportunity of a lifetime for everyone to consider these kinds of careers. And then, of course, number two, customer success specialists. BIM specialists are basically building information modeling specialists, like people that needs to have some skills in AutoCAD or Autodesk 3ds Max and whatsoever. For the customer success specialists, these are the kinds of jobs that will also rely on data and analysis in order for them to understand customers' behavior better. So that's why it's also one of those future-ready job technology. The 8 out of 10, that includes the customer success specialist. So clearly, number 4 is full stack engineers, because they would need software developers and software engineers, full stack engineers that would be able to help develop products, maintain products, and to continuously innovate on those products and platforms that are being built by these employers and these technology businesses out there. And when you talk about full stack engineers, the specific skill sets that are required there are React.js, Node.js, JavaScript. So from front end to back end, those are the type of skills that you need to require for full stack engineers. Data engineers are for like data mining skills, big data, Hadoop, Spark, HD Spark. So all of these data engineers is now actually on number 5. Cybersecurity specialists. So these are cybersecurity skill sets, certified ethical hackers that are needed by the government, by the industry, by the companies in terms of compliance, making sure that the data privacy compliance are intact. So cybersecurity specialists have been very rampant in the industry as well as number 6, as you can see here. Number 7, of course, like I said, going back to the nature of the opportunity of e-commerce and internet companies being born out of being built and set up in Malaysia, digital marketing specialists are very important nowadays. So the skills that are required to become a digital marketing specialist are not just the typical traditional marketing skill sets, but also skill sets and different software tools and applications that the digital marketing specialists can utilize to make their jobs easier and to automate data. And by the way, aside from the customer success specialist, utilizing data for understanding the customer behavior, the digital marketing specialist as well uses data in order for them to better define, design, and implement marketing campaign strategies for their companies. Number 8 is environmental engineers and environmental officers. So just to give you a little bit more context in what it is and what it's for, is that for environment officers, obviously the specific software skill sets that they need for that would be the ability to configure and to have the know-how and skills in ArcGIS, or geographical information systems, being built by Esri. And the reason why it's important is because of sustainability projects and programs by the companies and the government and as a nation as a whole. Sustainability projects, making sure that the social impact across the environmental economics are intact, and urban planning has been considered, and in terms of critical design of making sure that the nation or specific company or the nationwide mantra as a whole would be able to plan out in terms of design and geographical information systems to make sure that the sustainability and growth of the country is in place. And then, of course, for automating tasks, combining systems administration and development work. So that's where, and that's what the DevOps engineers are for. So specific skill sets that are required for becoming a DevOps engineer are basically scripting languages, C#, Perl, Python as well, to be used, in PowerShell, to make sure that the DevOps engineers will be able to create scripts to automate jobs, so that the systems administrators of 5 or 10 years ago wouldn't have to configure and administer or manage servers or manage systems manually. So DevOps engineer is the new systems administrator or server administrator nowadays. And then number 10 are community managers. So skills that are required in social media, Google Analytics, or social media analytics are very important and very critical for community managers. And again, because of the need or the requirement, the demand for the internet companies and e-commerce companies to have community managers to make sure that these companies and these employers creates the community across their targeted user base or targeted customer base. So after taking a look at and focusing on the Malaysian numbers, the Association of Southeast Asian Nation, or ASEAN region, which composed of for everyone's knowledge and for everyone's benefit, it consists of Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Brunei, Nepal, among others. And then looking at the future ready tech upskilling and reskilling data and numbers, some exciting numbers here, as you can see, is that it's not just actually Malaysia has the same need or has the same interpretation and realization of how important future-ready technology skills are, but also the ASEAN region as a whole. So 47% of today's jobs will be redefined in 20 years. 65% in the higher education sector of students today will do jobs that don't yet exist, and 35% of ASEAN employees view online learning as very beneficial for their career progression. So 87% of higher education leaders in Asia believe they need a digital institution is needed in order for them to succeed. So looking at these ASEAN numbers as a whole across the region, is, as you can see here, starting from the higher education side, because that's where the source of talent are going to be coming from. So 87% of higher education leaders in Asia believe they need to be a digital institution. So what do we mean by to have or to make the education institutions a digital institution? So it means if the education sector or if the education institute, whether you're a university or a school or an institute, then if you are becoming a digital institution, then that means you have started embracing digital tools, online learning tools, learning management systems, and such. I believe, needless to say, that with the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the digital transformation that is set to happen in the next 5 to 10 years had only happened for the past 5-6 months, since January of this year, when this pandemic started across the region. And looking at these future-ready skills trend and looking at the upskilling and reskilling priorities and the needs for these tools for these organizations nowadays in the pandemic situation have been accelerated as a whole. And later on, we'll tackle briefly about how countries such as Malaysia and ASEAN as a whole are looking at reskilling and upskilling as critical component in empowering citizens of ASEAN during these times. So predominantly future-ready technology skills are the rising skills in ASEAN. So as you can see here in this heat map, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Indonesia, Australia, Philippines, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and among others have been predominantly data and artificial intelligence, gesture recognition technology, which is also related to AI, system automation and DevOps, robotics process automation, front-end web development, which is part of the full stack skills as well, cloud computing, continuous integration, containerization, as well as blockchain or fintech skills. So these are very exciting skills in ASEAN as we focus on bridging the skills gap, and we see this trend of the predominant list of future-ready technology skills being prioritized and being in demand for each country. And this data is actually from the 2019, right even before the pandemic situation. So what more it actually resonates, and it will be interesting to realize, and it will be interesting to see how it can relate to now's accelerated digital transformation during these pandemic scenario. So empowering Malaysia and the rest of ASEAN in the midst of the pandemic situation across the region. So everybody knows about the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic, both on the private sector and the public sector, and particularly even in the Philippines, as well as in countries like Malaysia and other countries, even in Indonesia, which are predominantly the key ASEAN markets, the 4 key largest ASEAN markets: Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines. Particularly for the small and medium enterprises, or the SMEs or the SMBs out there, constitute 98.5% of total companies or businesses are likely to be affected in the absorption of the state of shock. So the state of shock, as I can see, is more of like the economic turnaround for these SMBs to actually lay off massive amount of people. And for example, there's a famous and popular hotel here in the Philippines. Since they are in the travel and tourism industry, this particular hotel company in the Philippines actually laid off thousands of people, thousands of hoteliers and hotel and restaurant management professionals, um, and looking at that as a challenge for everybody, but also because of the Industry 4.0 future ready digital skill opportunity that creates the bright light at the end of the tunnel. So that bright light at the end of the tunnel is that imagining how possible and how prominently credible for a situation like that, to see a shift of a story of someone that have been laid off from its job, and then making sure that to get back up is to consider upskilling and reskilling motions and strategies to be able to get back up and acquire some skills that will be relevant nowadays with this new normal, wherein all of the jobs are mostly the ones that are actually being staying at home would be the future ready digital skill sets that are required for those jobs and career opportunities. And clearly renewed efforts to support workers in reskilling and upskilling with these different programs are and have been particularly important um, in order to provision employment services, and particularly with Malaysia, it has been focusing as well in upskilling and reskilling their workforce for the new economy. And clearly, as everyone probably know, for the Malaysian audience out there, with the partnership with the Malaysian Development or the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, or MDEC, they have some really good programs, such as the Coursera partnership that they had for the past 6 months that they've kickstarted to help the citizens of Malaysia to upskill and reskill themselves. And of course, it also starts to kick off future-ready technology upskilling and reskilling programs, not just in Malaysia, but to also across the ASEAN region, and continuously strengthen relationships and alliances for both the public and private sector. And it's amazing how both the public and private sector are actually working together and collaborating together nowadays to address the highly demanded future-ready jobs and its requirements for the skill sets, and to enable the job availability as well, and increasing the employability. And these programs in joint, not just in Malaysia as a country, but also the rest of the ASEAN region, such as the Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. So we know that there's an opportunity. We know about the future-ready jobs and future-ready technology skill sets. So how do we go about it? And how do we think would be the good approach in order for us to see the alternatives and to see the solutions for either if you are an education institution, an organization, or just an individual professional or individual student out there who's looking at some ideas in some ways on how to better understand structuring the framework of making sure that we take advantage of the upskilling strategies as a whole. So looking at job tasks analysis, or JTA, for example, as an output, you master the list of skills and learning paths per role, which can be customized per need of an organization or per need of a university or a company. And then you combine, of course, obviously the training formats or the learning experience format and the knowledge and performance driven based assessments. So popular things such as once we're done with identifying the actual roles, mapping the subject matter experts, both either Microsoft or other sample companies out there or sample technology vendors out there that we can tie in. And then, of course, market research for skills, which is we've clearly already done and went through for the past slides for all of those top 10 in-demand skills, and apply those top 10 in-demand digital skills or future-ready skills, map it up through the job task analysis here as a framework, and then combine it with like different snippets of ways and solutions and components on how we can we can address each of those tasks. So basically, micro-credentials and learning platforms to consider in order for us to, let's say, for example, looking at data science as a skill. Okay, so what are the training formats that we can do for our organization? What are the micro-credentials and learning platforms that we can utilize for that? And we can repurpose. And then what are the online courses and hands-on learning labs that we can inhibit? So as you can see, since we're talking about different technology skills and future-ready skills here, such as data and AI and full-stack software engineering and DevOps and cloud and such, and that's why hands-on learning is very important, because reading books and watching videos or listening to lectures will never be enough. It doesn't gonna cut it. Hands-on learning is going to be very important because of the practical based learning that each of the learner or each of the professional can actually learn. And then obviously, which is very, very relevant nowadays of the pandemic situation, blended learning experience or hybrid learning is important, wherein it's not necessarily can happen or should happen face-to-face. By utilizing different tools such as Teams or Zoom or Demio or whatsoever to actually provide blended learning experience, for combine digital books along with that as references, and then bundle professional certificates and tech industry certification exams that can be mapped out. So I think having this kind of high-level framework should be able to give you an idea as an organization, whether you're an education institution or a company or the corporate sector out there, to come up with an actual job task, or even applying the ones that we just laid out earlier, which is like the top 10 job, future-ready jobs, and then mapping it across the output as a master set of lists and training and knowledge-based performance-driven assessments, and combining them with all of these framework, considering micro-credentials, learning platforms, online courses available or can be sourced out from public sector or private sector, hands-on learning labs, blended learning experience, digital books and references, as well as bundled professional certifications, which can be shared as an achievement for that specific course, where digital credentialing to celebrate the achievement of someone, or to celebrate your achievement when you complete the course or when you complete a lab as a learner. And then these are just basically emphasizing each of that, of what are the possible solutions out there primarily. And in CloudSwyft as a whole, we have been very active in the Asia Pacific region. We're working with different educational institutions in the corporate learning sector, both in the B2B and B2C sector. And we have been very passionate about driving future-ready skills and things like this in partnership with the Malaysian Digital Economic Corporation. It is very important for us to be thought leaders in this, and to be able to support and help out organizations and learners out there with these mantras and frameworks that we can help them with. So micro-credentials, learning platforms, labs, online courses, massive open online courses or MOOCs options out there, instructor-led training or blended learning experience, which could be relevant, as well as digital credentialing and professional certifications, such as badges that can be shared and be added on LinkedIn professional networks and social media, for example. So these are just sample future-ready technology course catalogs based on like mapping it up on the top 10 or 8 out of 10 of those 2020 Malaysia's top job trends for Industry 4.0. So data analysis, Internet of Things, big data, data science, cybersecurity, DevOps, AI, RPA, and of course, full stack software development or modern software development. So these are like the high level tracks that you can, that you would like to, and that you might have consider, or you might want to consider in terms of looking at what should be the prioritized skill sets that I would have for my employees if I'm a company, or to my students if I'm a school, or if I'm a lecturer or a dean or a director, or if I'm a marketing professional in a specific school. How can I convince the decision makers or my stakeholders in the school on these future-ready technology skills and its importance in order for us to be able to produce highly employable graduates and learners that are globally driven and globally prepared in the Industry 4.0 era. So we've talked about the hands-on learning labs as the one most critical component as well in learning different technology skill sets. And these are just some sample screenshots on how hands-on labs can be accessed or how hands-on labs will be important. So basically, these are like browser-based environments wherein all of the tools and applications and software that you would need without worrying about manual setups and installations and software applications doesn't have to be worried about. And then these are just sample custom hands-on lab environments out there that as examples that can be considered, like MATLAB or MathWorks, AutoCAD for like BIM specialists, ArcGIS for environmental officers, and then of course Python, Linux, Tableau, UiPath for robotics process automation, Excel, Power BI, Cloudera, Java. So all of these sample software applications. Imagine that you're not just learning by watching videos and going through PowerPoint slides and listening to some sessions, but also getting your hands dirty in a playground wherein you would have an actual live sandbox real time that you can perform lab exercises. And then once you've successfully accomplished those lab exercises, then you can get, for example, a digital credential or a badge, which could be very fulfilling as a learner, which actually also very consistent with what we were saying earlier when we were doing the job task analysis across the framework. These are just some screenshots, anytime, anywhere, at the comfort of your home. Imagine nowadays, because of the pandemic situation, primarily the universities and schools, obviously they don't want to ask the parents or the students doesn't want to go to the physical computer labs or the physical premises if they want to do blended learning. Of course, everyone knows about learning management systems as a straightforward solution for online learning, but when you think about different applications that are required for future-ready technology skills, hands-on learning or online hands-on learning labs are going to be very important. So ranging from technology, multimedia design, game development, engineering applications, graphical or geographical user interfaces and information systems would be very important and rampant nowadays, because at the comfort of everyone's home, anytime, anywhere, they can access these lab environments without even going to on-premise physical locations. And then these are just sample digital completion certificates for someone that are actually taking courses as part of celebration of achievements, just like if we're going to go back to the job task analysis earlier, which completes the entire system of like learning experience. You're learning, you're taking in modules, you're taking the courses online, you're going through blended learning experience by consulting mentors on an Ask Me Anything 1-hour consultation session if you're having a hard time with some modules and some lab activities. And then you perform the actual lab exercises in the lab. And then once you're done, then you can successfully complete and earn the digital credentials. So blended learning, just like what I mentioned, this is a way for learners to actually schedule a mentor or book a particular subject matter expert or course technology course mentor for a session, which is an innovative approach that allows them to have a remote mentoring session with that subject matter expert mentor for that specific courseware. So nowadays, this is going to be very important because since the movements are very limited right now, it is important for us to combine these innovative solutions in order for us to come up with an end-to-end experience for future-ready technology upskilling across the region or across the company or across the education institution. So these are just sample future-ready skills tracks. Data science, you can follow this specific track, which, by the way, I believe we are going to be able to share this presentation to all of the audience here. So I think that's a good news for everyone, so that you can have and you can take your time to see through and take a look at these samples that we have in terms of future-ready skill sets. So big data, AI, DevOps track, cybersecurity, IT support, full stack development, IoT, robotics process automation, data analysis, and such. So yeah, so that's about it for the future ready technology skills in Malaysia and the ASEAN region as a whole. I would like to thank everyone for listening to me. Just a little bit of a shameless plug from our side. We just want to encourage everybody to have a look at our offering in here, since we're talking about the number one data science or data scientist, the number one data scientist job demand in Malaysia. So for all of the AMDEC My Digital Workforce webinar participants, wherever you are in the world, whether you're in Malaysia, KL, Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, and such, all of the participants can get 10% special discount with this newly co-created global micro-credential that we want to highlight. So this is a micro-credential for artificial intelligence on Microsoft Azure using Python basics and covering machine learning skill sets as well. So for individuals and companies interested to know more about this global micro-credentials, you can reach out to Ashley, which is the moderator of today's webinar. So her email is actually right there on the slide. So this is in collaboration with Microsoft, yours truly, CloudSwyft, and of course with FutureLearn, which is one of the largest massive open online course providers across the world. If you wish, you want to work together, feel free to reach out. My email is on the slide. For Malaysia-based collaborations and partnerships, we would love to work with you. We would love to have virtual coffees and virtual drinks with you. If you would like to have like a 30-minute, 15-minute call with us to explore some partnerships and explore some synergies together. Ashley's email is on the slide. My email is in there. I believe Ashley can also share that in the announcement chat, just in case you missed it on the slideshow. And happy to take in some questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much. Insightful presentation. So now we are actually going to proceed to our question and answer portion. And we actually received a number of very interesting questions from our participants over here. So so let's start. So one of the question is, as a student, what should I focus to learn and become a data scientist?
Okay, so to take in that question, I think, first of all, thanks for asking that very important question, because I think nowadays a lot of people have been talking about like data science, data scientists, like everyone is talking about how to be an AI engineer, how to be a data engineer. But the truth is, everything starts with actually learning what's already available on your, majority of your laptop devices or majority of your computer labs for sure. And probably some of you or most of you are probably wondering what that is. And it's basically taking advantage of the Microsoft Office Excel, for example. Like I believe everyone is using Excel applications nowadays. So Excel application is the most or the most used or the simplest tool or simplest software product that is being used to gain and acquire data analysis or data science skill sets. And that's a very good starting point for someone that is actually learning how to acquire some data analysis skill sets. Because before you can actually even call yourself a data scientist, you need to learn and you need to grab the ropes of how to become a data analysis engineer or a data analyst first. And sample applications of that would be Excel or taking advantage of Excel applications. And in fact, segueing into that, we do have a primer session for introduction to data analysis using Excel this coming September 2, which I believe Ashley would be promoting and providing more information on that too later on. And then another thing that I would like to highlight for that is, I believe if you are already a computer science or computer engineering student, C++ and C# and Python skills would be very important programming language skill sets as a starting point, aside from learning Excel. on the data analysis, visualization and analysis side. And then the programming side, Python, C++, C# would be very, very critical and important. I hope I was able to answer the question.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Actually, you have answered a number of questions over there, because we also received questions like what is the best programming language, and what are the in-demands. We also have questions like what should I focus to learn and become a data scientist. So I believe you've actually covered the answers for those following questions. So moving forward, we have another question over here coming from Thean. He said that, hi, sir, is engineering simulation skill like ANSYS and Abacus an essential skill in the post-pandemic world?
Absolutely. I would say absolutely. Why? Because when we were talking about future-ready skill sets, most of those future-ready skill sets are technology skill sets that require programming. So these skill sets requires analysis. These skills under data scientists, or how to become a data scientist, how to learn data analysis skills, how to learn full stack engineer skills, how to learn artificial intelligence skills. So all of those data and AI skills, essential basics of mathematics will be very important. And utilizing tools or engineering applications such as Abacus and more would be very important as a foundation for learning the essential maths and the essential mathematics and essential statistics required in honing and developing, or even kickstarting some data and AI future-ready skill sets. And in relation to why it's going to be important in the pandemic world, then definitely, as you can see in the 2020 job report, data scientist is number 1, data engineer is there as number 5, data analysis is actually number 12. It didn't became as top 10, but it's top 12 in Malaysia alone. But in ASEAN as a whole, I think everyone sees a lot of trend in the data and AI skill sets that are very important right now in the pandemic situation, because these are the kinds of jobs and responsibilities and career opportunities out there wherein anybody can just work anywhere they are and everywhere they are. It doesn't really require you to go to an actual physical office space, or at the same time for you to be able to contribute to the society as well, if you have those kinds of skills. Because simple examples are, let's say, if you learn how to use Tableau, if you learn how to use Excel to and Power BI to visualize and analyze data, you would be able to contribute in some aspects of data reports, or contributing to the reports of the pandemic statistics for each country, or for your specific country.
All right, thank you so much for that, Dan. So, although we have received a lot of very interesting questions from all our participants, we will just entertain one last question. But after this, we will definitely be in touch with you to answer the rest of the participants who have questions. So,
Yep.
last question is, do you have any advice to improve your programming skills?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for that very good question again. So since predominantly the future-ready technology skill sets require programming skills and programming languages know-how, in order for anybody, whether you're a fresh grad or you're an existing professional, or you are someone that came from a non-tech industry but would like to reskill or upskill themselves into these different digital skill sets, I think advice that I would give would be to look at the best online learning platforms or massive open online course providers of your choosing, of your liking, of your desire, that would work for you. There's a bunch of massive open online course platforms out there that provides freemium models, whether you would like to look at the free options all the way up to the paid certificate and such. And then aside from looking at these possible options for MOOC, I would say if you're working for a company and if you are studying in a university, it will be very good to start with asking the hiring managers or the HR or the learning and development managers that are assigned into that company or organization on what are the options for online learning for that organization, and then start from there, and then choose programming courses that can actually help brush up your skills during your at your own time, at your own pace, because that's what's good about online learning options and online learning solutions, because you don't have to be just be limited to the time that you need to start and finish the course. You can finish and start the course anytime, and then at the same time you can also you can also perform your assessments and exams anytime. And then the last thing that I would like to emphasize is that since we're talking about technical skill sets and we're talking about future ready digital skill sets, like I said earlier, and what I've been highlighting, reading books, watching videos, and going through these sessions and these lecture sessions will never be enough. You gotta have a hands-on environment for you to play around with, whether you want to do it through a provider or you want to do it by yourself by setting up your machine. Or I suggest also, if you are studying in a university or you are actually working in a company, I suggest you ask for those kinds of options for having hands-on lab environments that can be given to employees or students in a specific organization or in a specific university or school. So in summary, look at the options for MOOC platforms out there. Look at the options by talking to your direct supervisors or HR managers or L&D managers in companies, or deans or professors and lecturers in your schools. Ask for options for online learning and what are the programming courses that are available, or future ready skills courses that are available. And then lastly, look at the options on how you would be able to have hands-on learning experiences, so that you would not just be able to learn these programming skills by theoretical knowledge, but also by actually doing it on an actual sandbox or playground.
All right. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions, Dan. And we keep on receiving a lot of really interesting questions over here from our attendees. And
Yeah.
though we won't be able to answer them as of the moment, don't worry. We will be sending you Dan's answers personally later on, as we send a copy of our presentation and the recording to your emails. So now we have reached to the end of our webinar. I would like to thank you, Dan, for being our guest speaker and talking about the future-ready skills, technology skills here in Malaysia and in the ASEAN region. Thank you so much for all the participants who have attended this webinar as well. Let me, like Dan has mentioned, we are actually in conjunction with MDEX, My Digital Workforce Week. We are also going to be doing a free primer on data analysis using Microsoft Excel coming 2nd of September from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. You have here the link to the webinar series, to the training as well. So feel free to register whenever you can, and hope we can see you soon.
Perfect. Absolutely. So again, thank you so much on behalf of CloudSwyft, and behalf of the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation and the My Digital Workforce Week team. We would like to thank every participant and every learner and registrations that came in. We've got about over 860 participants and registrations for the past 3 days alone. So that has been very incredible. Thank you for joining us, and join us on the 2nd of September. And we hope everyone to have a good day, safe, and a healthy the healthy rest of the week. Terima kasih.